1 minute. We're just putting a megaphone on our voices. Okay, we should have a megaphone. Can everyone hear me out there? Begum, can you hear me? Okay, hopefully everyone in the audience can hear as well. We should all have a megaphone now. Awesome. I think we should be live now. We should be streaming and our megaphones should be working.
ILLUSOR. Okay, now I'm megaphone as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining to this live event in ILLUSOR Auditorium in Pylon. We're super duper excited about this talk. We have today Manuel, Garcia, and CYRIL, Lancelin, two great architects and designers that we've been known like for the last 10 years. We really appreciate their time joining this panel. And also we have Faisal here and Alec from the ILLUSOR team joining us for this panel discussion as well. And in the background, you see Ouch, a digital art work by Ouch as well. So once again, thank you so much for joining to this talk. And I'll just start the conversation by giving a little bit of a very short description about Manuel and CYRIL as well. So Manuel Jiminez Garcia is the co-founder and principal of Mad M Design.
Changing the way we make things, even before COVID, right? I mean, right now it has obviously gained a lot of momentum, but that was an almost inevitable kind of shift in construction. seen around for the last decade. But a little bit more recently, we've also seen how perhaps it's not just about reducing the human intervention, but just streamlining the human, right, to use him or her for what we are best at, right? And use technology to augment their capability to build things. Like, for example, some of the work that the Hologram is doing, using augmented reality to kind of overlap instructions for assembling, and basically ease the fabrication and assembly process. I think that is something that is gaining a lot of traction, and that will make construction safer and faster. Yeah, that's with the AR technologies. With VR technologies, I'm finding very interesting, like, for example, some of the design applications like Gravity Sketch. And when those start to interact with, let's say, robotic fabrication processes, like, for example, you can design something in VR, see a simulation in VR of how that could be built, and operate within that, and that information is streamed to the real robot to fabricate something. I think that's going to start to be very, very interesting. We have at our labs, we have an ongoing project with Epic Games, which is kind of navigating within that realm, and we do see it as one of the features of construction.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I actually have a question regarding that. So you kind of spoke about the last 10 years of fabrication, and I feel like we've achieved more capability of having customization than maybe, let's say, 100 years ago, when it was like mass production of the same kind of element. Do you think virtual reality has allowed for customization more? And do you think it kind of makes it easier to customize products in fabrication?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you take, let's say, virtual reality as one of the digital tools available in a wider tool set, right? So let's take kind of a current state-of-the-art technology in design and fabrication. You have VR, AR, then you have other automation processes, right? Like, robotic assembling, 3D printing, and so on. I think we're starting to find a good connection between them, and a smooth navigation in between the digital world and the physical world. So right now, I think is like, for example, VR. I mean, AR has a more immediate kind of application in the real world for construction, right? That's where we normally say that AR assisted construction methods are like almost not transforming, but equipping people with the ability that a robot would have to be more efficient in building, right? VR is still a little bit more far off from that domain. But you see, for example, in works by Jose Sanchez, how he's actually establishing a virtual factory. It's not in VR as far as I know yet, but it's in the gaming field. And you start to understand those processes of fabrication much better because you see them closer in VR, right? And you start also seeing the possibilities. Okay, I think for having a much wider degree of customization, what we need, and having that for real, what we need is to control that fabrication process very, very well, so the higher degree of complexity doesn't end up being a higher cost for a product. That in the real world, So I think somehow, obviously, in VR, complexity is almost a given, right? Like you can design almost any geometry that you can render it out and see it. But when you start kind of having a good balance in between the two, so say I design something very complex, and I design it in VR, or I see it in VR, I test it in VR, and I see how it's going to be fabricated in VR. I design these processes of fabrication, and I know that I can output those in the real world. I think we're starting to see a much wider domain of customization in both realms simultaneously, which is obviously a step forward in the domain of design.
Right. And you spoke about sorry, go ahead, Hamid.
Yeah. And I just asked from CYRIL that we've seen a lot of your designs like all over the world, a lot of installations, physical installations, and also I've seen other installations in your works in your portfolio that they haven't built. So what do you think about like seeing those installations with your avatars inside a virtual world like Pylon, like ILLUSOR? What is the feeling? Like you have built installations in physical world, and you are seeing your unbuilt installations with your avatar in one-on-one scale. What is that feeling?
Well, I think this is just amazing because I have a VR headset, so I was able to go inside and look at it. Also, when you design something, of course, you know by heart your design because you spend so much time on the computer. But honestly, when you are with your avatar going inside, you can check the scale, you can check viewpoint, you can like see so much more things. And something else important in my work, I always try to be realistic to be able to build it, because I think I'm trying to make connection between the digital and the physical. But honestly, VR I think it's a bridge, like Manuel was saying, between the reality and the not real. You know, when I post some image of my artworks on Instagram, some of them are real picture of a real installation, and some of them are just like renderings. And whatever it is, the image is sending a strong image. It's a power. It's even if it's not existing, it's already here in the mind of people. And I think it's great to bring it to VR, because more people can experience it, see it. And if I want to move from the art field to the more architecture field, I think it's very important, because you can try to test some building organization. I remember when I was spending time working with architect, and I was working for a big company, and they were building those huge towers with a lot of office, and people, the employees from the company, they were gonna move to these new buildings, which was huge, like a huge tower. And some people did like renderings and images, and they did a VR to explain them how it will work, where will be their office, where will be the auditorium, where will be the coffee machines. So for like 1 month before the big move to the tower, they experienced their new office. So this is like, and now I think things were going slow, but because of the COVID, I think it's like we're on a freeway now for VR, and we're on a freeway to connect VR to architecture, to design. I would be interested to seeing in this space, for example, new furniture design, new chairs, because you can really see it. For example, if you want to buy a chair, before buying it, you see it like in VR. I think it's enough for me, you know. You don't see the material, but you see it perfectly. And plus, when you have a VR headset, you can grab the object, you can look around. So I really think it's a future.
Yeah, amazing. Do you think virtual reality, designing in virtual reality, like your own installations, like will VR affect your future designs? You think?
Yes, I started with not with very large sculptures, but with a smaller one, the one where 2 or 3 meters. I started to import them in. If you guys have know about Oculus Medium, it's amazing software with the VR headset, where you can import a file. And you put your object, you change the scale, but you have tools as well to paint them, to remove things, to move around. So a lot of time for small object, I do it. For larger installation, I just design everything on my computer, and I don't move it around after in VR. I just go and look at it.
Yeah, amazing.
So you both kind of design really complex objects, right? I want to know if if you kind of sort of think of materials that interface with virtual reality more, and maybe what the future of designing objects will be.
Yes,
Yeah,
well...
You go.
No, go ahead, Manuel.
No. I said go ahead first.
Okay. No, I was just saying, because every time I design, even if I like to publish the image of my project sometime before building them, because like this, I can see if it's strong or if it's gonna work or not. But so I always try to be realistic about the material and stuff. But for VR, for example, just here in the space, like those text moving, I think it's like super interesting to see like moving stuff and those like mapping on the ground. So gives me new idea for like if I was doing more VR experience, that you can have moving texture, moving materials. Maybe in the future it will happen for real materials, but for now it's just in VR. So it just give us opportunity to further to what you say. It give us more opportunities for the future. To when you design something, you will have to design the things, but you will have to design if it's moving or if it's changing aspect or new possibilities. I think.
Yeah, like I think as Skyra said before as well, I think we're in a very interesting time when like the advance in computer power, which is what has made VR possible because of the level of realism. So you have a more immersive experience. But so now this is starting to blend with the perception of the real world. And if you play well with it, right, overlapping both, can actually lead to the spectator or the user to not really understand what is real and what is not. And that is already happening. I mean, it is already happening in Instagram or in like anything we post. Like now I'm having the same problems that sometimes I go through the hassle of building something and then people think that is a render. Right. And,
yes.
And vice versa. So there is no more traction for one thing or the other, right? Like that's why I now keep on posting more like making of pictures, and then they're like, wow, okay, so it was real, right? And I think the same thing is happening with art and architecture. I mean, it's been already quite a few years when we start to speculate about the necessity of having a real articulation in buildings and in interiors, right? If actually now computer power and LCD screens and so on would allow you to change the space immediately in a matter of seconds. You will not even need a window anymore because you can simulate the effect of being looking at a window in real time, right? You will not need decoration. Like this is... It starts to be the dream and the nightmare of Adolf Loos at the same time, right? You can design complete empty spaces and fill them up with something different every second, and you will not even realize, depending on how you establish your architectural principles. I mean, sometimes there are things that you can't touch anyway, and you just rely on your perception. And your perception right now is tricked, and it will be more and more tricked, right? So I think this is starting to be a very interesting field to operate. Like, what is architecture, real architecture for, and what is the new space that is created for the virtual that is actually ramping, is actually landing in the physical world too? And how do you design with both simultaneously? So I think it's a very interesting times coming up in that area.
Right.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have to kind of redefine what space means and what objects means in the future as VR becomes more real. And I just wanted to ask also about if you're aware of Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is going to sort of accelerate things even more when we have these chips in our brains that kind of help us to interface with augmented reality and virtual reality. How do you think that will affect things in terms of fabrication, and for CYRIL as well, in terms of sort of installations and creating objects in the real world?
Shall I go? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, well, and Neuralink is, well, first of all, I think it's an incredible advance, health-wise, right? In the health sector, I think that is amazing. But also, as almost every technological development, it just becomes more groundbreaking, yeah, when it's widely used. And to be widely used, it needs to be produced at an accessible cost, and it needs to be compact. I think you see those kind of devices now because we can reduce the size of every single element that makes almost anything, right? And that's why also, like, a car could be in a computer, right? Like, I mean, things can become smaller and smaller and smaller, portable, and at this stage, integrated. Like, there will be a time not really far away from here where we will not be using VR glasses right now, or VR goggles. Like, they will be integrated. You will have them, and then the risk is when you want to activate them or not. So I think there is a lot of opportunities. Definitely the medical realm, as Elon Musk is applying it. I think this is a huge progress. I think it does have a huge repercussion and a positive effect in design, in fabrication, in augmenting our perception when we really need it. But there is always a risk that we start, like, falling out of reality, So, yeah, again, I'm not sure. I have very confronted ideas about that development ramping in the world of design. Like, what if, it's like AR glasses, when it becomes so real that you don't even know how to distinguish reality from an illusion. Do you want to be living there at all times? Or how are you going to limit yourself to use that capability only when it's important for you, only when you need it, when it makes your life better? So yeah, that's an open question that we will see developing in the coming years.
Yeah, what about you, CYRIL?
Yeah, I think it will happen. Like, in the future, we will be directly connected with AR. Like Manuel said, it's difficult sometimes to see a difference between the real and not real, and it will be more and more. But for example, here, like I am with my headset in there, it feels really real for me because it's I can hear the voice coming from the right if somebody's talking on the right and from the left in the left, and so I don't see why I should go out from my house. I'm kidding, but it's starting to be very connected. And because of the COVID, I am in France right now. We are in a lockdown again, and I was able to do like a lot of meetings with Zoom with people. And I really think that meeting in VR will be even better, because then I could bring maybe some 3D object and show them and turn them around and maybe scale them down, scale them up. That would be cool. And I was thinking for architect, for example, you have your client, you talk in a virtual space, and you hold a model, and the model is just not a small, you can make it small, and then you can enter in there. And as Manuel was saying before, for a long time, computer were not good enough. We have all great idea of designing cool stuff, but the computer were not enough memories, not too many polygons and stuff. But now I have the feeling that it's okay. Like computer can do whatever we want. So we just need to have the good ideas. And as we say, not only computers, but soon it will be like a real, like Neuralink, that it will be in real life, that you will have like this air everywhere.
Yeah, amazing. Another topic that I'd like to ask is about the education. I know, Manuel, you're also a lecturer, you're a professor, you teach at the university. And after the pandemic started, we all started going online a lot more than before. And all the education systems just turned to be online. We used a lot of Zoom, like these online platforms to hold classes inside online platforms. And what do you think is the next step could be for the education systems to move inside this virtual worlds like ILLUSORR, Sansar, and make kind of like classes online? Because as we were already talking about this yesterday as well with the Sansar staff and Sansar Wally and Elsie, and it was quite good topic to hear what the developers of these platforms were thinking. And also I'd like to ask your thoughts on this. How, as a lecturer, you are a professor, you are a lecturer, how do you think it could be possible to integrate this virtual reality world with the universities, with education?
I was actually going to say, when you ask was the next step, no, after Zoom, and I mean, we're clearly right now in the next step. We're in an auditorium where you can project everywhere, where you can interact. When you can even get people distracted. Like I don't know who was it. Like it's super funny see that avatar moving the weights.
Yes.
So yes. You can even notice how. I guess it's incredible. I think I can notice if people are, paying attention or having questions or feeling doubty or assertive or not, more than in Zoom. Like in Zoom, sometimes it still feels like you're looking at your computer screen and you're just talking to it, and you don't really see people, you don't feel people. I think there is something in education that is tremendously important, and that is actually what makes you a good educator or not. That is being able to read someone and to know what that person is lacking, needing, or intrigued by, right? And that connection is incredibly difficult to develop in Zoom. And I mean, of course, we're just at the beginning of this, right? This is the tip of the iceberg. Like if computer power would be strong enough to recreate, like our avatar is not actually an avatar, it's just us, like, and yes. You see it and you feel it. And you see like the work is actually real. Like we're actually not that far from it, like maybe in a couple of years, this would just feel more real than reality. And I think that starts to be a really big question for education as well, in terms of what this digital realm allows you to do that you couldn't do in the physical. Like, for example, I was talking to you right before this, right? Like, what if you could teach people, like, technical stuff, like even working with machines in the virtual world, where, this would be a much safer environment. Like, if the machine is as real as in reality, yeah, and if you put your hand in the wrong place, then you get hurt, like that kind of training is invaluable. Like that will be incredible, and you can see the performance of that. You can even accelerate on time to see if there will be any further problems. You can again feel your installations in like without having to spend huge budgets that for students is obviously an incredible effort to build prototypes. You are already far ahead from the process. When you actually jump to the real world, you are in a completely different situation. And I think there will be many questions about the curriculum and about academia in general, to start kind of bifurcating what is best to teach in reality, when you need a face-to-face, and when you don't, and when you don't need it, and when it's actually perhaps better not to, and start implementing ILLUSORR and Sansa further. So, yeah.
Yeah. CYRIL, do you have any point to add to this?
Well, I wish I was a student again, because I would love to have those tools. Like, because I remember I was at architecture school. Is you had the building, but then you go home and you work, but you do a lot of teamwork. And at the time we had only the phone, but now you have like this. You can share a model, you can show things, show images, show pictures. Like we just saw with the pandemic, I just did a workshop with Columbia in New York like a couple of weeks ago, and it was just amazing, because we were like almost 200 of people, and during the workshop, and then we were going to group of 6, doing stuff, thinking, and then going back to the 200 of us. It was like so natural. It was even better than in reality, because in reality everybody will be talking and nobody listening, and it was like amazing. So I think it brings a lot of new possibilities for teaching and for learning. And same thing. I spend a lot of time watching stuff on YouTube. When I design something in 3D, when I don't know it, for example, if you have to draw pillows or something, like you type how to draw pillows in 3D, and then you get a video. You have video for everything. So it's so much easier to get education. It's so much easier to talk to other people. So I would love to be student right now, because it seems amazing, and you can talk to so many people. And I'm sure, like for Bartlett School, you can have like people from far away making lectures without taking the plane to come. There's like a lot of new possibilities.
Exactly.
And imagine if right now I was doing a lectures, I could like choose on the screen to show some images, sometimes some movies, and then I could in my hand hold like a small model, and the model make it small, then make it very large, and then make it turn around. So like it would be so many possibilities, and people could take pictures, selfies, or whatever, and they can record it. And the good thing is people from Sydney, from Paris, from Mumbai could listen to it at the same time. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I think, and we're not, as Manuel was saying, we're not far from being the digital being more realistic than the real.
Yeah, that's amazing. And also one point to add to this, that we're gonna start using VR sets, also using VR world. There's a guy who spent a week inside virtual world. I just forgot his name. We were discussing this 3 weeks ago with the team as well. So this guy has spent a week inside the virtual world, and he just changing the headsets whenever the battery of the headset is finished, and it would take like 20 seconds or 10 seconds between each VR headsets to change. And he totally was doing all his activities, daily activities with VR headset on, and eating with VR headset, going to shower with VR headset, and even sleeping with VR headset. So I see this as I know this is very maybe very too much to do it, but what do you think it will be happen in the 30 or 20 or even 10 years after this? Would we be able to use these VR technologies with the developed versions of this VR technology to have a full 4, 5, at least 6, 7 hours of a day spending inside a virtual world? What do you think about this?
Well, for example, when I'm here, I'm with my headset and I look at the auditorium here. It's so cool, so amazing. And if I'm going back to reality, I don't want to go to a stupid auditorium with normal chairs. I just want one like this. No, but it's true. So I think it will bring more new ideas, new designs, new possibilities. It will influence the real place, because this place, honestly, Zaha I think, could build it, right? Now we know how to build this. I always say that sometimes I look at the Apple store, and I remember school when they were saying, you can't do a glass panel larger than 5 meters by 2 meters or whatever. And you see they have facade all glass with no structure, with nothing. You don't see anything. It's just, I think, either for the virtual or for the real, there's so many new possibilities. So both worlds are gonna collapse and influence each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually the greatest danger for reality and perhaps for humankind, and in relation to design as well, mainly, right? As well as the greatest opportunity is the inevitable disappointment on reality when we start spending more time in the virtual.
Yes.
And that's going to be it starts to be interesting already. I mean, of course, I don't spend, I don't spend 24 hours in my Oculus. I like to spend maybe half an hour or an hour. I like to go and, play with my dog and see my parents for real or things like that. But when these things become almost, permanently attached to you, right? Like when technology develops and you almost don't notice that you have it. And you can switch from reality to virtual in a matter of in a blink, right? When do you decide one thing or the other? That's gonna be, again, a very dangerous situation. But as well, I do see a lot of opportunities with design. Like when you as a designer have the freedom that you have in a virtual world, right? Like, you guys could design this without having to worry about, GRC panels and who's going to build it and how much it's going to cost and who's the client, right? You can't do that. So you can express yourself as a designer in a way that you wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise, because you will need all those aspects, right? And when there's more examples like this, and people, again, go to an event in this auditorium and then go to another auditorium and say, actually, this is not that great, right? And we will start questioning traditional design much more than we do today. Right now, we just assume that an auditorium looks like an auditorium. But now we can challenge that and that's going to see reality as well. I think this is the time, when with design objects, with product design, this happened earlier in the days, right? You make furniture for the Space Odyssey, and then people see it in the movies because that's a much lower investment, right? So it is something that you can get through very easily. People see it in the movies and they say, that's the furniture of the future, right? And so people understand, furniture much better than architecture. Architecture, they still have the conception that a house looks like a house and an auditorium looks like an auditorium. Now we're challenging them. That's opening up a huge space for us.
Absolutely. Just want to add to your points. For example, imagine 30 years ago, 40 years ago, or 50 years ago, imagine there was no cell phones and there was no internet. And if you would say to anybody who, after this, 50 years from now, you would be spending 8 or 7 hours of your time inside a device that is called cell phone, and you will be exploring Instagram or Facebook, and you will be spending your time inside Twitter, these applications, and they wouldn't believe this actually. They wouldn't. They will laugh at you. What is it? What are you talking about? And now it happens to me because I curate one of the most famous avant-garde architectural platforms on social media, parametric architecture. I spend 8, 7, 6 hours a day, my time inside these platforms. And let's imagine just 10 years or 20 years from now, we will be spending 8 hours or 6 hours of our time inside any virtual world or any Oculus or any virtual reality. So it would be out to imagine, and we can't imagine from now. We can't imagine right now, but definitely it will happen. Not in the shape that maybe we can think of, but definitely something will come into the business, and it will be exploded like Instagram, like social media, like Facebook, and everybody will jump inside it. I think,
but, I mean, it's already happening. As you said, for example, your platform, for sure, open up the mind of many people who are not really just from architecture to start understanding those examples as architecture. And that, the power of Instagram on, widening up the view and the scope that someone has about architecture, art, etc. It's amazing. People are now more open to new ideas because they see them all the time. It just flows through, right? And these kind of traditionalisms, obviously they are those that stop progress, right? There was a very funny anecdote. Well, anecdote. One of the engineers in Nokia, went to their superiors, to their board, with a phone with just a screen, a multi-tactile screen phone, and they laugh at him. They laugh at him. They're like, look, a phone to be a phone needs to have, numbers and keys, right?
Yes.
And a couple of weeks later, the same board had to make an urgent call to just decide how to close the company, because that morning Steve Jobs announced the iPhone.
Wow. It's amazing.
Technology evolves as well as design, just because you find people with open mind, and now we're opening up the mind of many people. So that's great.
Exactly.
So speaking about sort of new methodologies of design and sort of experimental forms, I feel like when it comes to the real world, we have ways of optimizing forms and design, right? Things like structure, as you spoke about, or things like sort of performance. But what kind of optimization techniques can we use in the virtual world? What are some of the parameters that we can begin to sort of teach in universities of the future, and sort of to students who want to learn to optimize designs for VR and AR?
Yeah, I mean, now we kind of have like a different levels of optimization. Like, for example, that's something I do. Like, when technology advances, then you need to find new methods, right? So, like, for example, in Nagami, the robotics 3D printing company, now we don't optimize for with a structure optimization. We optimize with curvature optimization so that we can print without support, right? For VR right now, you optimize the number of polygons. You also optimize in, how easy is to navigate. Yeah, how do you avoid getting dizzy, right? Like, all these new questions of optimization are starting to pop up, and we're starting to learn kind of the rules and constraints of new technologies, both in the real and in the digital. So, structural optimization right now is even one of the kind of lowest factors that you need to control in some of the designs that you do. There are many other things, like it almost kind of passed to something from a few years ago. Now that's almost a given, and we're creating new problems that we need to optimize and new optimization solutions, and which is exciting.
Amazing. CYRIL?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to add anything about the previous question, or shall I continue?
No, yeah, you can continue. I agree. I totally agree with what Manuel said.
Okay, perfect. Talking about continuing the conversation to social media, do you think there will be any like competition? Let's not say the competition, any kind of new social platforms like inside virtual worlds, like Instagram, like Facebook, or these giant social media platforms will jump inside these virtual platforms and make a new Instagram in virtual or a new Facebook in virtual. Because, for example, I see CYRIL Lancelin's Instagram, and with his amazing designs inside his page, and I like to scroll down. I like to go down, and when something like virtual social platforms emerges, what kind of social platforms inside this virtual world will be emerged? Will be there any like competition between virtual or normal Instagram? What do you think about that?
Well, I noticed already when I put my Oculus that it says Facebook. So yeah, it's true.
Facebook is already getting inside the game.
Yeah, Facebook own, I think, Oculus. I think.
Yes.
So they're not far, because well, for me, I spend a lot of time on Instagram every day, because I like all your images posting on parametric architecture. And honestly, we were speaking about the past a few minutes ago. And I remember when I was a student, I was reading a lot of magazines about architecture or going to the library, it was difficult to see new design, new ideas. I saw like first drawings from Zaha Hadid or from Frank Gehry in Bilbao is building. So we spend hours looking. But now, if I look your Instagram, every day I see amazing project. I have the feeling it's going further and further, and I see so many good designer, good architect, and it's so great because it's changing the world. Because now when you go to a new city, before you go to a city and you say, oh, here there's a building from Frank Gehry and one from Jean Nouvel. But now there's like hundreds of cool buildings to see in each cities. So things are going faster. And I think for social media in VR, I think there will be just Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. They will just improve themselves. And maybe some new social media will come, but right now I don't see what they could do more or better. I'm interested about what you say earlier about IllusoR City, because this is something that could be cool, like a social media or like a VR space, which is a city. Imagine like this building and everybody can like have his own space and show his stuff in there. And it's like instead of being a social media where you go through page, you walk to a real city, and when you enter in the space, this is a space designed by the owner of the place. For example, instead of having an Instagram account where you post your own picture, then you will have your own design and maybe picture on the wall, maybe something, maybe music when you enter. When you meet people in real life, sometimes it's very interesting to go to their house because you learn a lot about the people. You see their furniture, you see if it's how their garden is, or if it's you learn even without talking, you learn a lot about people. So I think that could be a future of social media to go inside a VR space that belongs to the owner of the I don't know if we can call it a page. It's not a page anymore. It's a space.
Yeah, I actually want to be perhaps so enthusiastic and critical at the same time about social media and in relation to design. So, I mean, we've seen an exponential growth on information, right? I mean, we've produced what is this one that we've produced like 70% of the data in history in the last 2 years, or so it's incredible. But so now with that, obviously, with social media and other kind of platforms, we've seen an increase on accessibility of that information, which is great, right? So we see like better projects and more inspiring objects, designs every single day, right? What it has decreased with it is our ability to process that information. We sweep through things rather than look for something and then learning from it. Like I remember, when I was a student, I'm actually super happy that I come from a generation that still grew up with encyclopedias. And we had to look for stuff when we wanted. There was no internet, right? Like learning something was just very difficult, and you had to go through this kind of suffering and adventure of trying to find something, and then you would appreciate it more. You would read every single bit of that, and you would learn it. Right now, if you want to know something, you want to see something exciting, you just need to turn on your phone and scroll down. And you realize, like especially in academia, how the new generations, they never read the credits, for example, right? Like they show you references and then they credit them to Instagram or to Pinterest, right? And then you ask, so who did this? Pinterest did it. Pinterest doesn't produce information, and this happens every day, like insane. And so you need to teach them how to credit stuff, not for crediting and for being academically successful, right? Just for them to learn. Like who did that work, what is related work to it, and what that work means, and why is that useful for you? And that's something that we're learning much slower these days. So one thing that I really like about this virtual world right now here is that it's actually built by architects. And Instagram is not, right? Instagram is for people to consume information as fast as possible so that they can consume more information. And then the information that the platform really wants you to consume and purchase, they will just feature it more and more and more, right? When an architect builds a space and curates an installation like this one, you know, you go there and you see the credits, there is a space dedicated to it, right? There is a learning exercise that you are forcing with the way you're curating that space. So I think in that sense, perhaps virtual exhibitions that require a little bit more time and effort as well. Like, you know, I struggled to get here to this auditorium, right? And that's a good thing, you know, because then you remember that in that corner there was Arturo's installation, and in that corner there was Carol's installation, right? And you learn more from them and check more work because there is a procession, there is an effort that you need to make to get somewhere. And I wish, you know, perhaps social media would work more in that domain. And perhaps they just need more architects.
Absolutely. You're right. And also, Manuel, we are presenting your Cloud Access Pavilion in here. It's inside this pylon. And we will go there, and maybe our audience will explore it as well. And I'd like to talk a little bit about this pavilion and your design process. And it's not built, as I know it is not built. It's just it was just a proposal and concept. Can you talk a little bit about the journey of this project and the design process?
Yes, of course. I mean, it's funny because when you guys asked me to exhibit something here, then I mean, the other option was Nectary, which is a 3D printed installation. But then I thought, look, I mean, I see Nectary, like I'm seeing it right now. I have it in front of me, right? So I've touched it and I've experienced it. So I think this is an opportunity to start, you know, getting embedded into things that you couldn't otherwise. And that was it was a competition for the Talent Biennale, and it was actually based on deployability. So it's just an accumulation of a repeated block, a repeated piece that you can very easily bend. So it would actually be even interesting to build it in this virtual world. Like this was meant for, you know, everybody in the audience or everybody in the event to learn how to fold a block and how to assemble it together. And then we all together as a community could erect a larger structure. So there was this kind of a beautiful social experience related to making and then to enjoying that space. So for me, having that space here, first of all, gives me the opportunity to experience it at a level that I couldn't beyond my computer screen, but also makes me think about the opportunities that this could have in relation to interaction, right? Like, could people go there as you are doing with the flamingos, which I absolutely love it. Like, could people go there and mess up with it? You know, could they contribute to build more? Could could we have a pile of those like unfolded elements, and then people would fold it in virtual reality, and by that they will learn how to also fold it in reality, and they can build their own in their own houses. Now, I think there is a lot of opportunities about collaboration as well in design with these new technologies. Like for like that's a kind of a fabrication experience, but even a design experience that I've seen in juries around the world as well, of people building platforms to allow for collaborative design. You know, like we are 3 or 4 people in that space, and each of us is, you know, drawing something, designing something, like messing up with the design of the other. And those kind of interactions right now are incredibly interesting. So, you know, as that piece was built for interaction, right now, even if it's not yet interactive, I think it's kind of starting its way through a new domain, and that is what is interesting for me. So if you guys go and visit the structure, please do, and also just try to mess up with it. Probably you can't because of the way it's built in this world. But please forward ideas on how you would experience that better, how you would create your own, or how the structure could evolve over time.
Yeah, thank you. Amazing. And also, I would like to ask CYRIL, why are you so into flamingos and pyramids? What is the idea behind it?
Well, when I started Instagram, I was still working in a big architectural firm, and I was working at the 3D department, and I was a director of 3D department in a big firm. So we were like 12 people. I had 12 people working with me, and when we started, we had I don't know, 2 weeks to do a project, and 5 or 10 years after, we have like sometimes 2 days because the clients want an hotel. 2 days later, he wants to see what it's gonna look like. So we started to use parametric design because it was very interesting to be quick, to be fast. You know, we start by doing assets. We had like a typical facade and stuff, but we need to go further. So we started to use parametric tools, and for me, it opened a lot of new way of designing parametric tools. So I was still, when I was going home, I was spending time drawing my own ideas. And at one point, I don't know why, I started to think, I want to do something with parametric design, which is fun. So I started to draw this pink pyramid with the spheres that you can see with this installation, and I drew this image thinking about the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, in Champs-Élysées, how this big arch is fascinating a lot of people because it's like just because there's an arch, it's bringing a direction. You go towards this, and it brings a lot of possibilities. So I drew a pyramid, and honestly, I did it, I think, in 10 minutes, because with parametric, you just say, okay, I'm going to use spheres, two sides, and you can do like hundreds of new tries because of parametric. And like in 10 minutes, I had this image of a pink pyramid, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I love this. So I render it, and I posted on Instagram, and very quickly, I got a lot of emails, a lot of messages, and I got my first clients, the people who were interested about this. So I was even surprised by myself, because I spent so much time working on like real building, like trying to design things, and I just play around, and then people are interested. So I studied more about this, and I did more, and that's how I started. And I think after, it was like a good opportunity, because when you work in an architecture firm, I remember to find ideas, I was spending a lot of time looking at art books, because it helps to find new design, new things. And especially, as Manuel was saying before, it was a lot of people was starting, when they start a project, they look at Pinterest. You know, they don't have any ideas, so they put Pinterest, and they see like hundreds of images. But sometimes, like an image, like for example, what you have on the screen, when you design a building, it will bring you an idea, like it's something different, but it will help. Through visual image, it brings you idea about spatial organization, or about facade, about elevation, or whatever. So I thought it was very interesting to, with parametric design, to do like some ideas different, to design some things different, even if there's no use to it. But it helps. So that's how I started. So I did this, and then I have my first client. So I built the first building, and at one point, I was thinking, I was always abstract, very minimal, because I love minimal architecture and I love minimal art. But I thought I should bring more life in there. So that's how I had this idea about flamingos, because it connects abstract and figurative. And that's an idea I thought about architecture too. Maybe we should bring more like figurative in architecture, so to bring different things. So that's why I started to do with flamingo, because people who wants to see figurative, they see figurative, but people who wants to see minimalistic installation, they see minimalist. So it's connecting both fields. That I started with this, and of course, Flamingos got a lot of success on Instagram. So I keep use it, and as Manuel was saying earlier about the good thing about VR, like you see this space amazing, like architecture and design. It brings to a lot of people who were not in design before. They want now to have design space. I remember where I live. People wanted a house with just like a typical French house with a roof. No, because they see commercial on TV for cars where you have like futuristic house, and because they see more on Instagram, because they see in TV shows. Now people they are making attention to design every day. So for house, for like everything. So it's the same in art. If you put architecture, if you put like parametric in art, I think it will help to move forward and to go to a world more design, more with more architect. I really like what Manuel said about architect is for a long time. I don't know, architect were, like the builders are the people with the money, the client, and they were not listening to architect. And I have the feeling that with VR or with the power of image, architect will take the power back and will be able to design more things, and we will be all more happy about this.
That's amazing. Really brilliant idea. Thanks for sharing this with us. And Faisal, do we have any questions from our audience?
Yeah, so we'd like to open questions from the audience. If anyone has any questions, please do ask. While we wait for questions, I actually have one question I want to ask about sort of the impacts that design could have in the future. So when we think about things like big data, when it comes to social media, we know how like algorithms can affect us, how sort of algorithms can curate the posts and the friends that you meet on social media, or how it can curate the music that you listen to, or even the adverts that you see on different websites. So I wanted to ask if you think big data can start to sort of curate the worlds that we live in, so that, the environment that we live in is curated based on our, likes and dislikes, and that the worlds that we see become curated based on that. Do you think that's possible in the future?
Well, yes. Well, Manuel, go ahead. I will go after.
No, you go.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting, your question, because I'm thinking a lot about this every day, about big data, about how the computer seems so smart, I'm wondering if big data is going to arrive in when you actually design, like in AutoCAD or like in 3D Max or in other things, because it could be, I always draw I take always the same way when I draw something, and I'm thinking maybe we'll do like on the internet, where you start typing 2 letters, and the computer, knows what you're looking for. For example, in Google, you receive an email, and Google already propose you answer to the email, and I think it's completely crazy. So sometimes it's scary too, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to answer to the email, and the computer is already saying it. So maybe for design, it will be the same, but the problem with big data is like the freedom. I don't want, that's one of the things about Instagram. The algorithm from Instagram, for example, is very fascinating me because is choosing for me some image that is going to show me. And sometimes I would like it to be more not chosen by an algorithm, because I wonder if I see only things I want to see, but I would like maybe to see things I don't like every day, because that will open my mind. I will see things I'm not looking for. So this is my I like big data for that, because of big data you can see more things, because it helps, it goes faster. You go on Pinterest, obviously they know what you like because they always show things I like, but I would like to sometimes to go out from it. Yeah, for example, Instagram, sometimes I posted some images that I really like that are zoom on some of my artworks. I think the image is very powerful, and I get almost no view. You see like interaction, there is no interaction, because the algorithm, it knows that the image is not going to be liked by people. It decides for you. And did you notice on Instagram, for me, it's like this. You post an image, and after 2 minutes, you know already how many likes you're going to have, or if the image is going to go further. It seems it decide with the first viewers of your image what it's going to do with your image. And I don't like this, because it means that the 5 or 10 people who looks first, if they don't interact with your image, then your image is dead, even if it was a good image.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I like that view as well, right? I mean, the world was constructed out of accidents, you know, and right now we're leaving very little room for accidents. Like, I mean, if you think about it, you know, machine learning works with data sets, right? Like it really depends on how your data set is, that it will hybridize it in one way or another. It will not create something new and surprising fundamentally. It could be new and surprising to you because you've never made that connection, but that is always coming from a predefined data set that we built, right? So I think it's actually slightly, I mean, it could be very powerful, because there are many things about designing, especially about designing architecture, that we don't like to spend so much time on, right? And that's where automation plays a very good role, not only in construction, but also in design. That's why BIM, you know, became so successful, because it liberates a lot of the tedious work that we had to do as architects, although it introduced another pile of very tedious or even more tedious things. But I think if we now start to define the future of architecture from what people think that architecture is right now, and that's how it will happen if architecture becomes much more automated, becomes much more purely data driven, yeah, I think there is a risk, like in any other creative profession, to not leave a door open for accidents, and accidents are creativity in a pure sense, right? So I don't know. I mean, I've worked quite a bit with like machine learning processes, and we're using it now for you know, automating space management and things like that, right? To allow for a greater flexibility, a greater interaction. We haven't really entered the world of data-driven design purely, right? Because I do feel that this is slightly threatening. It kind of almost, to me, it gives me a little bit of anxiety, saying, well, look, we only have then a few years before this happens, so we need to change the data set, like, Hamid, you need to like post even more, right? so that we have more examples of like good and interesting architecture.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, right now they would like feature more Villa Rotonda.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
The thing is, the data is so important these days, and the future of. I was reading this book by Yuval Noah Harari. I don't know if you have read it or not. 21st Lessons for 21st Century, and and also two books before he wrote before this book. He announced the culture of dataism. And he said, maybe the future, not maybe, this is happening. The future of like humanity, the civilization will depend on data, and whoever manages data, whoever is like doing a lot far great than anybody else with data and acquires that knowledge with that data and information, will conquer the world and will be the leader of the economical or the political everything of the world. And I totally agree with that. And just reducing it to reducing the scale to architecture, I think architecture and design actually, I think we will follow this path as well in terms of like finding the best designs, finding the good architecture, and definitely we will need to post a lot more on Instagram to define what is a good architecture with the data, with the amount of the data that we have in our hands. I totally agree with you. The data will be ruling the next step of the civilization.
Well, it already does. I mean, both Brexit and Donald Trump are a result of data, right? Like it was literally that. Like these two things would not happen if Facebook wouldn't have existed, right? It's very easy right now to, with the amount of data that we have, to drive things one way or another if we have the power. And the power, as you said, who has the power right now is who has the data. I mean, there is entire companies like giving hardware for free because hardware doesn't matter. Those consumables, they don't matter. What matters is that you sign up to Facebook, right? Or you sign up to whatever company and they have your data. I mean, there is a huge controversy around the Oculus 2, right? That is, the first time that they require a Facebook account to use it. Like you can't use it without being in Facebook. Like that's scary, to be honest.
Exactly.
Maybe now my device stops working when they listen to this.
Yeah, they will mute you.
Yeah, they shut me down.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so amazing. And also, Cardinal, to your point that you said, maybe you don't like the algorithms. I totally agree with you. And I think this algorithm creates something like a bubble. You live inside your own bubble. And it kind of gets too much attached with your personality. For example, we all have seen these kind of images. Like, for example, you like a girl photo, and then in the search tab, there's thousands of girl photos. Or you like an installation on an architecture picture, there's thousands of these architecture pictures inside the search button. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is something that there is no escape from the bubble that you create on these extensions that you own, and they reflect your personality. I think it would be better if there was any exit points, or if there was any 30% of seeing outside of this bubble as well. I totally agree with you, and I think that would be a good change for the future as well. And I would like to pass the mic to our audience. If anybody has any questions would like to ask from CYRIL and Manuel, please just approach us or please start talking and we will be hearing you.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Okay. Also, I hear you. Guys, do you hear it also?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Okay. Go on.
So my question is, we have the Microsoft Kinect that came out in 2010, 2011, and we have VR headsets now that are becoming cheaper and more accessible. Do you predict any intersection in that technology?
Who are you asking this or from all of us?
From anyone who wants to answer.
Okay.
I mean,
CYRIL, Manuel.
But
that's quite interesting because there is an obvious connection, right?
it's been used for years and years.
Which is the
as
tracking.
question.
I remember the Kinect was a very promising technology. I actually did a few installations using Kinect, but in 2011, 2012, and right now it's if you compare it, the state of Kinect then with the state of Oculus tracking today, right? It's actually very similar, right? You can do almost the same with them. I think obviously one of the next steps of VR would be to do capacitive, suits and objects, right? So that you can feel, right? So I think tracking is becoming easier to solve, and that's probably one of the reasons why Kinect was discontinued. Because it is becoming a more invisible technology. It's becoming easier and easier. You can replicate your body in reality with a capacitive suit very quickly. I think the next stage will be in feeling, right? Like if I now go and hold your hand, right? Am I gonna notice it, right? That's probably the next evolution. It's funny though how in the field of art and architecture, we saw a lot of Kinect installations and interactive pieces, and now I think that kind of tracking ideas in art got a little bit more dissolved to navigate more through a virtual world. So there's more like VR and AR. Somehow, probably those ideas will come back, and it will make a powerful blend. So, yeah, I think conceptually it is there, right? The connection, and it will be empowered. But I think there are so many new things that will also come up in the world of design and architecture from technology.
Now the XR is taking over. Like if you see from the first pandemic stage, there was a boom in the virtual production scene where there's, for example, the Vive trackers and stuff like that, where you can track the camera movement and you put a virtual scene and you can put a tracker on a camera, put an artist there, so you can see it from a parallax perspective. Like it's a mix between the physical and the virtual world.
Yeah, true. I mean, tracking, like even I remember when I learned like my first steps in 3D modeling with 3D Max, like we were using balloons to then track and fix the camera position to overlap something in a scene, right? I mean, right now, like you can just track absolutely anything, which is very scary as well, right? Like in China, for example, they are implementing this idea that we've seen in Black Mirror, no, of like giving points and stars to people, and that will dictate if you have access to some things or not, right? And it's because now you are very easy to track, which makes it very interesting and also a bit scary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions?
We have one question coming in here from Discord. It says, how can procedural methods help create new structures in space and other planets? I guess this is for Manuel, maybe.
I think, yeah.
Because I'm in another planet.
You're working for another planet.
That's true. Well, I do have experience in Mars, right? Like it's so good because we made these amazing renders that then, I'm saying actually we did work on Mars, right? It looks real. So you're not going to verify if it's not, right? I think if you start relating that to, for me, space colonization is all about construction optimization, right? And construction optimization for me is as well not only related to technology but to geometry. So in that sense, procedural methods would help on finding rules for structures to grow over time. Yeah. One very interesting work in that sense as well is Center for Bits and Atoms, Nick Garcia, right? They are working with NASA and expanding their idea of digital materials, right? I normally divide space colonization in terms of architecture in 3 different fields. One is pneumatic structures. It has been until now for obvious reasons, right? So, like shipping something to space is very expensive, right? So it's much more expensive than UPS. So, okay, you flat pack things, option A. Option B, you send machines that build things, right? 3D printing, right? So that's kind of the second field in development for space colonization. The third one is robotic assemblies. Deployable structures that are based on modules, yeah, that are very easily connectable and connected and disconnected, right? That's the work of Neil, for example, with NASA, right? So what if you can produce one single element over and over and over again, and it has a very limited number of connection possibilities, so that it's very easy to automate their assemblage, right? Their assembly. So in that sense, somehow it's almost kind of giving a real take to Big Hero 6. Have you guys watched that movie, right? They have the nanobots, right? So if you have one particle that is intelligent enough to connect in different ways to another particle and lead to different kind of structures, that is the best way to build something, well, definitely in the space, right? You can pack them all, send them there, they can easily configure a structure, and then they can reconfigure when the needs are changing. So I think those are some of the greatest potentials of procedural design and essentially of digital design in general is within that realm, and they are getting tested first in speculations about, or sometimes not that speculative, but becoming reality, on space colonization, and then they get back to Earth as well, changing the way we perceive architecture, and that is very important. Like right now, I mean, our entire studio at the Bartlett, what Jill and I basically try to establish new ideas of flexibility of a space based on modularity, right? So what if those modules could configure and reconfigure? And right now, the best example is the structures that are done for Mars or for the Moon, right? So there is of course a huge window of opportunities for digital design in general to take a main role in the exploration of other planets. Yeah, I just don't want to go on site to check it.
Yeah, amazing. Love it.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ahmed.
Yeah, go on.
We're gonna be focusing on the virtual world more than our physical world. Like in the classic movies, in the classic sci-fi movies, you see like our world becomes filthy, and when you put a VR headset, everything is neat and classy and look realistic and stuff like that. Do you think like, the focus is gonna be on the virtual more than the physical world?
Yeah. Do you guys hear the question?
Yes, I did, but CYRIL, since I answered you, if you want to say something about this? Or?
CYRIL, you want to talk? Okay, I'll answer this question. The thing is, yes, I think the interaction with the virtual world would be definitely more than this in the future, but like we don't know, we are not Nostradamus, we cannot predict it, we cannot exactly say what is going to happen, like just saying
I
what
guess you
what
can say, since we are the designers, we help to build what's
yes
coming in the
yes
future.
Yeah, we can say, like, imagine in 1950, 1960, everyone just was saying that we will be living on moon in the year 2000, and even yet nobody saw the internet coming, and nobody guessed about the internet, and nobody could even imagine the internet in the 1960s or 65, and yet after 20 years we had the internet. So let's just say, okay, we can have some predictions, what kind of like interactions we can have with the virtual world. I believe there will be more than this. We will be exploring a lot inside the virtual world. We will be exploring maybe these kind of talks, shows, or exploring new kind of products. For example, if you want to go and buy any like t-shirts, you will go inside the Nike store and you will just make that t-shirt into your avatar if you would like it. If it looks good, you would purchase it, and that purchased item will be shipped into your house directly. So this is not far future. This is I think this is going to happen maybe in 2 or 3 years or 5 years after this. But in terms of far future, I'm sure you all have watched the game, the movie Player Number One. This is the next step for the humanity to make the virtual reality more entertaining than the actual world, which is being discussed in this panel as well by CYRIL and Manuel. That point, I'm not sure about that point. Will we reach to any place, any point that we will prefer the normal physical world more, the virtual world more than physical world? To answer your question, I think that in terms of like design, there will be a lot assisting from virtual reality to the design world, since we can easily connect and show our designs to our clients, like architects, designers, like jewelry designer, even fashion designers. Yes, there will be a lot of emerging technologies like virtual reality into design world as well. I hope I answered your question.
You did, actually. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at us. We're all in the virtual world. You adjust your own avatar, your own look. You buy whatever you want, and we're having a full conference. So that's really cool. And I think
Yeah, that's amazing.
With more enhancement for the graphics, and if we add the touch for it, that's it. That's the future.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Thanks for joining to this conversation. I would like to ask a final question from CYRIL and Manuel as well. What kind of, with all these experiences that you have in your own fields, CYRIL, you are a super great artist, designer, and also Manuel, you are a super genius lecturer, founder of Nagami Design, and also you are a professor at Bartlett. What kind of advice would you like to share with the audience, like young designers, young students? Manuel?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can go.
Okay, go.
I mean, I normally just quote Steve Jobs on this, like stay hungry, stay foolish. So I think, you know, there are two ways, especially in these times, giving an advice sometimes feels a bit like, don't worry, things are gonna come back to reality. Like, for our current students, it's like, don't worry, you will be able to access the building soon. You will be able to go to the workshop soon, and you will, right? And you all will. We all will, right? I mean, COVID is kind of almost finishing now. At least the vaccine is starting to take effect, right? So I think my advice would be to learn from this situation that made you imagine things that you would just forgotten otherwise. And for me, this crisis, I mean, it has been hard, but it has been a time for creativity. It has been an incredibly vibrant time for us as professionals, as designers, as creators, as educators. And I just wish for students it would be the same. And so if I would be a student right now, I would just have my head full of incredible, groundbreaking ideas. Like just being here in a conference, I mean, come on, who would have imagined that a few years ago? Actually, a year ago, right? So I think just give freedom to your creativity now more than ever, because the world is about to become much more creative. After every crisis, there is a time for explosion of ideas, and that's how, for example, like South America and Argentina, that they are in a permanent crisis, there is a lot of creativity. Right now, the whole world is looking for creative ideas. So go for it.
Thank you. That was amazing. CYRIL, would you like to go? CYRIL, are you here? I think CYRIL has been disconnected, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, if CYRIL is not here, so we can, I think, end this panel. Faisal, do you want to add any points or ask, or do we have any questions coming?
No, I think that's great. Maybe one last question we can ask is, what do you think of ILLUSOR and what you've seen of ILLUSOR so far?
Well, now it's a shame that you can't see my screen to see my thumbs up. So I share my enthusiasm. I think this is amazing, guys. Like, seriously, congratulations. This is a huge effort, but it's incredibly well curated, and this is just the beginning. Like, I can't wait to jump on board on this initiative much more and much more often. I think is one of the things that the world of design needed today. So my biggest congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Awesome,
Thanks,
awesome.
CYRIL.
Thank you so much.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any final words to add, CYRIL? Like,
yes, because
any advice for youngsters or young designers? Anything?
Yeah, sorry, I had a technical problem. I don't know what happened with my headset.
Yes.
Microphone was not working, and now I see all black, but I can hear you, so it's good. Yes, like Manuel said, with the pandemic, it's changed a lot of mine. And when I see this VR place, I'm thinking there's so much opportunities for young designers to design new space, not only buildings, but new space, a lot of new things. And even better than that is the way that we can connect each other with Zoom, with social media, with VR. So don't hesitate to talk to other people. I think it's the key to. It's really easy to talk. It's not like you have to send an email. You just DM direct message to people. You go to VR place. You meet people. So yeah, just spend time on talking to people.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks, CYRIL. Thanks. I really appreciate your time. And Manuel as well, thank you so much for joining to this talk. If there is nobody asking anything, and I think we can end this conversation here and start exploring the new installations that has been added into the pylon. and we can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Manuel.
Well,
thank you, Carol.
Thank you so much, Hamid and Faisal, everybody at ILLUSOR. Thank you so much. It's like a wonderful experience. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. Love it. Thank you.
And thank you guys
Have a
for
nice
tuning
day,
in
guys.
and for being in the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you all. See you.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. See you. Then don't hesitate send message on
See you.
Instagram.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, I will be exploring some kind of new installations that has been added inside the platform. Also, Manuel's and Kyra's installations as well, Cloud Assess and all of them. Maybe we can